Hello, welcome to another meditation and stress release class. I'm Yuna, and I'm offering today another 30-minute seated or stationary practice. So if you want, you could lie down as well. I've got myself all bundled up. It's a good idea actually to have a little bit of layer of warmth in meditation, because as we sit for longer periods of time, the body temperature just naturally starts to drop on its own. So maybe bundle up, have a pillow or two, just be comfortable. A posture that you feel you can maintain if you are sitting up. Doesn't have to be cross legs. Can be whatever suits you really. And it's okay to move in meditation as well. But trying to minimize the movement as much as possible so there's the least disturbance to your nervous system as well. Today's practice is a focus on breath. Breath as sensation, and breath as a tool really to access that deep calm that can come from focusing in on it. So it's a really good tool. It's not for everyone, but the only way you know is if you try it. So feel free to settle yourself in. And we take time for that. It takes a while to settle. You might notice if you feel better with your eyes open or closed. If you keep your eyes open, you might have an almost downward cast of your eyes and a soft gaze, so you're not having to look at anything in particular. It's more opening to peripheral vision, an open sight that takes in everything without looking at anything particular. And if you're sitting, you might lengthen just that little bit and readjust your posture so that you're not slumping in any way. Checking through your eyes and your whole face, especially your eyes and your jaw, where we tend to hold tension. If you're not sure, you might even open and close your mouth and even lift your eyebrows and stretch your face. And then release and have the sense of the contrast. You can try, I have a bit of a froggy throat today, so there's not much I can do about that. You can try this hand position if you'd like. This will stimulate exhalation. So thumb and first finger touching the pads of those two together. So not the tips, but the pads on each hand. And then just let your hands rest, palms down on your legs, wherever is comfortable. And from there we start to drop into ourselves. So into that space that feels really like you, deep inside. The settling of all the sediment of thoughts. If you set them free to be here, you might notice how there's actually nothing you need to do. Settling happens on its own. You might imagine this column through your whole upper body, head, to the base of your pelvis, or even down through your toes if you wish, but that you're settling down towards the middle of that column or the base of the column. And know that there's nothing you need to achieve here, and there's nothing special you need to do. We're simply opening to what's here as it unfolds. And is there an intention that you want to set for yourself? And it might be a sense of what brings you here to the practice, what you're gaining from it. How it makes you feel after your meditation practice. There might be a way that it makes you feel. Or something that you're wanting for your larger life on the whole. And important to acknowledge these things that fulfill us in some way. And then starting to feel your way around your face. Just an open curiosity about how your mouth feels today. Sense of your nose. Cheeks. And the muscles of your face in general. Sensing your way into your ears. It might be of a feeling sense of a hollow in your ears where the ear canals are. And we're simply letting sound come and go. Feeling your way through your left eye. Eyelid, even eyelashes maybe. And your right eye. The sense of your eyelid and your eyelashes, maybe. Your eyes, both at the same time. Around your forehead. Crown of head, back of head. And then down through your throat. You might start to become aware of your breath. Filling your throat and the breath. And as you're exhaling, it might be that your shoulders just naturally drop. a little tiny bit. Maybe they release a little bit. Through the length of your left arm. Feeling fingertips, palm, and the back of your left hand. And so the right arm, and just sensing your way, flowing down the length. Right hand, and fingertips. The palm and the back of your hand. And then from your arms and hands, you might drop down into your torso and along the length of that column. The movement of your breath. The feeling of your belly as you're breathing. Ribs, low back. And then maybe continue to sense down into your legs, left leg and foot, your toes, and the right leg, foot, toes. Feel free to wiggle them if it helps you sense into them. Sometimes we sense a lot, sometimes we sense not very much at all, so whatever is the case is okay. Whole body. So we're simply opening to the sensation of this body as it is today. And then really turning into your breath again. Where you might start to observe and really feel your inhale and your exhale. You might notice how there's a little bit of aliveness to an inhalation, like an enlivening. And the exhales are a bit more on the calming side, potentially. Just see if you can kind of suss out the sensation of that. You might start to focus in on your exhale a bit more than the inhale now. Checking to see how your exhale might be naturally a little longer than your inhale. And you're not having to shift it in any way, you're simply observing it. Knowing that there's absolutely nothing that has to happen here. Notice whatever you notice unfolding for you. And keep setting thought free to be here. Nothing we need to do about thinking. Can we turn attention into that breath? And I'll invite you, if you wish, to apply a count to your breath. If it's evening and you're doing this before bed, you might count down from 7 with your breath. So like this, where you'd be inhaling 7 and exhaling 7, and inhaling 6 and exhaling 6. If it's the daytime and you need to be more alert, you can count up instead, from 1, inhaling, exhaling 1, and then 2, inhaling, exhaling 2, and so on at your own pace. So deciding now which count you'll apply, up or downward count. And start to join in with your breath and initiating that count. And if and when you're distracted, simply remind yourself that's okay to be distracted. You might start afresh from the beginning of the count. You might find yourself starting over more than once, and all of that is perfectly normal and natural. At some point, we release the counting. Just stay with your exhale, following it to the very tail end, into that space that unfolds between your exhale and your inhale. Feeling your way into that space. What does it feel like? You might say it feels like nothing much at all. But remember that nothing is something of its own. So what does that feel like to you? maybe a deep, deep stillness or a sense of quiet. And at first, what's natural is that we look at that space between the breath with our mind's eye. So let's check in, see if there's this kind of looking at the object of space between breath. And that's normally what we're doing. Creating an object out of that space. What happens if you simply drop into it? More like you're in the middle of that space, becoming that space. You might try that if you'd like. Give up the looking at, and simply be. And what you might try as well is going back to looking at it, observing it, and making that an object that you're looking at. Just notice what that feels like to look at that space at the end of your exhale. You might feel, for instance, a little bit more detached from it in some way. And not that any of this is good or bad, it's an experiment to see what it feels like to observe. To observe that quiet, still space. And then you might drop into it again, if you wish. Feel yourself as that. Nothing to look at or do, simply opening into that open, spacious feeling. And also something that might happen, I'm not saying it is, but could be for you, that there's a bit of not fear, but something uneasy about that. So that's normal too. You can just drop back into your centered place at any point that you need to. Into what feels centered for you, grounded. If you need to open your eyes at any point, please do. But if it's okay to stay here, simply being, then we stay. Continuing to drop into that openness and vastness. That sense of being deeply at rest that might be here for you. Or continue to remind yourself how you feel okay in this moment. If you're needing that, how you feel grounded through your breath, by feeling your feet and your hands, or whatever helps you into center. Just for this time, precious time here, could you let go of doing and planning and drop into the present moment through your breath? And we continue to observe those thoughts and emotions that appear here. And how there's, throughout all of this experience now of the meditation, but throughout all of life in general, there's something here that's also aware of everything. How that space between breaths, as still as it is, how absent of doing it is, still has a quality of primary awakeness or primary consciousness about it, whether the mind is in movement or not. And that we might also call primary basic awareness, witnessing presence. And how that witnessing presence is part of our human experience, always has been, always will be. If we think of all of these parts of our experience as layers of an onion, thinking, emotions, memories, and sensations, and breath, what's more basic than all of those, and running through all of it, is that primary consciousness that witnesses all things. And as you tap into it, what does it feel like is the question. And it may be something that other people say, for instance, like, this is very grounding. It's a kind of source of deep calm and ease. might feel unshakable in some way. No matter what else is going on, and you can feel into that and see if that resonates for you. Check it out. Does it feel that way? You might say that this is the ultimate inner resource, this ground of being itself, of non-doing, of open, spacious presence. And as we start to come to a gentle close for today's practice, you might revisit your initial intention. You might wish to invite in some kind of intention moving forward from here that supports your life in general and how you generally as well want to be in the world. Or just check in with yourself and see how you're feeling after that. What did you gain from the session? Or maybe something that you're leaving behind that feels good to leave behind. And take a few moments with that. You might wish to come back from that practice with a bit of movement and stretching. Or if you're deciding to just continue to rest, then stay as you are, have some more rest. Thanks so much for coming, or tuning in anyway. And I hope these sessions are helpful in some small way. Always open to questions. If you want to have put in a few comments on the Facebook page, feel free. If you have questions, comments, concerns, then feel free to write them and I'll get back to you. Thanks a lot. Namaste.